What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 best builds in Path of Exile 2. If you are looking for any of these builds on the website, then click my link description or the pinned comment. So this setup is a new combo between the Spark Sorceress and the Cast Comet and the Time Freeze. Our build will rely on high spark crits rather than drowning them in hundreds of different sparks. This way our clear speed will be as good as any other sorceress, but against bosses is the place where we are going to shine. Our crit scaling will reach crazy levels of damage. Even if you don't one-shot the boss, then you will have about 13 to 14 seconds, plus 7 seconds and even 3 more additional seconds of the time stops in your disposal. So if you are ready to destroy enemies and pretty much one-shot the bosses, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the sorceress and our ascendancy is the chronomancer. Then for the first skill we have Time Freeze with the Wind Wave, second Wind and Unbreakable. Then second we got the Time Snap with no support gems. Then next we got Temporal Rift with Ingenuity. Next we have Temporal Chains with the Cursed Ground, Encumbrance, Expanse, Magnified Effect and Ritualistic Curse. Then for the next one we have the Cast on Critical with the Comet, Spell Echo, Elemental Focus, Inspiration and the Concentrated Effect. Next we got Conductivity with the Heightened Curse and the Focus Curse. Next we got the Soul Offering with the Minion Mastery, Dance Maccabi and the Ablation. Next we have Frost Wall with the Icicle, Cold Mastery, Spell Cascade and the Cold Exposure. Next up we have the Archmage with the Clarity and the Lightning Mastery. And finally we are using the Spark with the Acceleration, Electrocute, Consider Casting, Arcane Surge and the Arcane Tempo. Most of this setup is structured around using our sparks for AoE and temporal chains with Time Freeze for the single target. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell damage node, and then go like this while taking all of these 3, so the raw power, practice science and the critical overload. Then now we keep on going until we get to the sudden escalation. Then from here again we keep going until the top and then take right, and then keep going until we get to the Whispers of the Doom, and then get both these lightning nodes. Then afterwards we keep going while taking pretty much all of these nodes right here, and then our second stop point is at this Eldritch Battery Keystone. And then finally from here we want to get all the way down here while taking these 3, so the True Strike, for the Juggler and the Deadly Force. And now from this point and onwards we can circle back and unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on the priority doesn't really matter that much. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Footprints in the Sand. Then second, now and again. Then next we want the ultimate command, and then finally select the Unbound and Core. So feel free to use this exact same path as we have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Siphoning Wand, and for the bonus stats we want to gain damage as extra lightning damage, increase spell damage, more to max mana, more levels to all cold spells, increased mana regen and critical hit chance. Then also we got an offhand called the Expert Plummet Focus with Energy Shield. And for more we want increased spell and lightning damage, max mana, more to intelligence and increased mana regen and critical hit chance to spells. Then also we have the second weapon set, which is very important for our build to fully function. So for the weapon we got the Rattling Scepter with the max mana, reduced attribute requirements and more levels of all minion skills. While for our offhand we got the Crest of the Artura Shield with increased armor and energy shield, more to intelligence and increased mana regen and cooldown recovery. Then for helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with energy shield, and for more we got max energy shield, max mana and more to fire and cold resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Kate Raiment with energy shield, and for more we want increased mana regen and flask mana recovery, more to spirit and chaos and lightning resistance. Then for the belt we have the Plate Belt with more to armor, max mana and cold and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Expert Sombri Gloves with energy shield, and for more we want max energy shield, max mana and more to critical damage bonus. Then for boots we're using the expert feather sandals with energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, max energy shield and max mana. Then for our first ring we got the amethyst ring with the chaos resistance. And for more we want increased lightning damage, max mana, increased cast speed and mana regen. While for the second one we have the breach ring with increased cold and lightning damage, max mana, increased cast speed and increased mana regen rate. And then finally for amulet we have the solar amulet with more to spirit. And for bonus stats we want max mana, more to spirit and increased mana regen. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So, our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. So what we want to do is first of all start by using the temporal chains. Then we follow that up with the conductivity. Then next use the time freeze in the combination with the soul offering. Then next we also want to activate the frost wall, and then from here just spam the sparks until the boss dies. But mainly for AoE and weak enemies, we basically will turn into a spark build. So just keep spamming sparks and see all of these crazy crits popping off left and right. The only thing you need to keep in mind is the defense. Our build does not have energy shields, so mind over matter is a good defensive layer, but should not be heavily relied on in the endgame. While the time freeze has a high cooldown, so feel free to use it 24/7. Then also the second wind for 33% no cooldown. And then the time snap reset will allow you to use the time freeze continuously in the combat. Overall, if you can master these skills, then you will become unkillable with very high DPS output at the same time. This setup is known as the Bombarding Minions build that mainly uses a Skeletal Arsonist for both AoE and single target damage, while then we can even further increase our DPS by casting Detonate the Dead, which explodes dead enemy corpses and let us speed farm every single content in the game. This build is the best of both worlds because it combines very quick clearing speed with aggressive playstyle while also having minions that protect you. And at the endgame you will be able to reach from 15 to 30,000 energy shield, which basically will turn us into an unstoppable puppet master. And on top of this, unlike other witch setups, our build will also focus on the Grim Feast buff that is used to provide an extremely strong defensive layer by doubling our energy shield in the maps, so that you can easily complete the highest tier maps in the game. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch, and our ascendancy is the Infernalist. Then for the first skill we have the Pain Offering with the support gem called the Fawn of Rage, Persistence, Ablation and Fawn of Blood. Then second we get the Skeletal Storm Mage with the Conduction, Stormfire, Overcharge and the Lightning Penetration. Then next we get the Skeletal Cleric with the Ingenuity, Last Gasp and the Minion Mastery. Then next we have the Skeletal Warrior with the Maim, Culling Strike, Blind and the Physical Mastery. Next up we have the Skeletal Arsonist with a Scatter Shot, Heft, Fire Infusion, Feeding Frenzy and the Concentrated Effect. Next we got the Grim Feast with the Clarity. Next we also have the Detonate the Dead with the Spell Echo, Brutality, Magnified Effect and the Arcane Tempo. Next up we have the Summon Infernal Hound with the Meat Shield, Fire Exposure, Strip Away, Splinter and Demolisher. Then next we got Flammability with the Heightened Curse, Spell Cascade, Inspiration and the Focus Curse. Then for one of the last ones we have the Flame Wall with the Fortress, Arcane Surge and Mobility. And finally for the last one we are using the Raging Spirits with the Elemental Focus, Immolate, Martial Tempo and the Fire Mastery. Most of the setup is structured around using the skeletons and activating Detonate the Dead to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node. Then go like this until we get to all of these, so the Power of the Dead, Raw Destruction, Open Mind, Pure Energy, Living Death and the Dampening Shield. Then from here let's get this whole circle and then keep on going until we get to this node called the Grip of the Evil. Then now let's circle back and this time go to this top part, while also grabbing the Necrotic Touch and the Dead Can Dance. Then from this point we want to get the whole right side, and then when you got that, then from that point you can just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Loyal Hellhound, for extra minion and reduce damage taken by 20%. Then second, get the Altered Flesh, which will help us to deal with physical damage if you have chaos resistance. Or if you're stacking maximum fire resistance, then you will take less cold and lightning damage. Then third, we want to go with the Berat's Will, which will give us a lot more spirit, but we will sacrifice 25% life reservation. But for sure this is 100% worth it. And then finally, we want to get the Berat's Hand. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start, we want to first of all get to the left side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. And then from this point and onwards, you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so again it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Rattling Scepter, which gives us the Skeletal Warrior skill. And for bonus stats we want increased spirits, max mana, allies deal more damage, and get increased critical damage bonus. And then finally we gain more levels of all of our minion skills. On top of this, we also have an offhand called the Oak's Warn with the armor and energy shield. And for the extras from this we get a new skill called the Raised Shield. Then also increased block chance, increased armor and energy shield, more to spirits and chaos resistance. But the shield is not required and you can easily go with any other option just with similar stats. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want max energy, max life, more levels of all of our minion skills, and fire resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Altar Robe with the energy shield, and for bonus stats we got faster start of the energy shield recharge, then also increased max energy shield, more to spirit and cold resistance. Then for the belt we have the Fine Belt with our flask gaining faster charges for every second. And then for more we got max life, max mana, more to charm slots, and fire resistance. Then for the gloves we got the Expert Intrusive Gloves with the energy shield. And for more we got max life, max energy shield, also increased max energy shield, and fire and cold resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feathered Sandals with the energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max energy shield, and chaos resistance. Then for our first and second ring we got the same thing, which is the Winter's Gamble. But again, this item is not required for this build to function. So if you can't or just don't want to get it, then you can go with any other ring as well. And then for bonus stats we want increased rarity, max life, more to spirit, fire, cold, and lightning resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Lunar Amulet with the max energy shield. And for more we want more to spirit, max life, plus levels of all of our minion skills, and fire and cold resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap. This is a starter setup which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So we want to start our highest damage rotation by first of all casting the Flame Wall, to summon Raging Spirits and then cast the Flame ability, to debuff your enemies. Then we cast the Pain Offering to buff your minions for a massive damage increase. And then finally in maps we want to use Detonate the Dead as soon as an enemy has died to explode their corpses, for improved even faster clearing speed. On top of this, if your minions get stuck, then you can just set up your second weapon set to have a 0 summoned minions in the skill tab. By doing this, all of your minions will despawn when you spawn your second weapon set, so then you can quickly swap back to your main weapon set, which will cause all of your previous minions to respawn right next to you. So just keep this in mind. So this is an endgame build that utilizes the power of the attribute stacking to increase its performance. Our main goal is to stack as much strength, dexterity, and intelligence as possible, to then scale it with our unique items such as the Pillar of the God and the Hand of Wisdom and the Action. One of the best things about our setup is that all it needs to function at the start is the Pillar of the Caged God, which is pretty affordable on a budget, but then later on we can scale it incredibly high with each unique item and massive power upgrades and much more. Our main playstyle will revolve around using the Tempest Flurry in the combination with the Charged Staff that can hit multiple times and create lightning shockwaves. If you want to zoom through the maps insanely fast while destroying anything and everyone that crosses your path, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the mercenary, and our ascendancy is the Gambling Legionnaire. Then for the first skill we have the Tempest Flurry with the support gems such as the Martial Tempo, Inspiration, Glacianation and the Ice Bite. Then second we get the Charged Staff with the Primal Armament, Lightning Infusion, Overcharge and the Concentrated Effect. Then next we got the Tempest Belt with the Concentrated Effect, Overabundance, Elemental Focus and the Close Combat. Next we have the Wind Dancer with the Blind, Maim and the Pin. Next up we have the Herald of the Ice with Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion, Primal Armament and the Elemental Focus. Next we got the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. And finally, for the last one we are using the Glacial Cascade with no support gems. Most of the setup is structured around using the Tempest Fury and the Charged Staff to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Also, at this point I would usually show you a leveling build, but this time our particular setup is specifically meant for only endgame, because it will only start working when we get the quarterstaff called the Pillar of the Caged God. So until that point I would recommend to use my cheap gas grenade build, which link you can find in the description and on this website. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this armor and evasion node, then go like this while also grabbing the Battle Hardened and the Relentless. Then from here keep on moving while also on our way getting these two, and also the beef. Then afterwards we go like this, and then here at the end we want to go up top and get this blood magic. We want to use this specific node because scaling mana and handling mana cost is expensive, while maintaining very high tankiness, so this is a great keystone to solve any potential mana problem. Then after this, we now want to circle back and this time go to the bottom and get this brute strength. And then as you can see from here, the whole path pretty much just goes in a straight line, so just follow it while also grabbing everything that you can see right here. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't need to get these two, so the Lightning Rod and the Flash Storm, if you still haven't equipped the Hands of the Wisdom and Action. And then from here, the most important nodes and the ones we want to get is the Storm and the River, as they increase our evasion rating while also letting the freeze to build up faster for more consistent explosions with the Herald of the Ice. And on top of this, it also makes keeping up our charged staff much easier, by giving it an extra duration when consuming a single power charge, since it counts as using an extra charge. And then finally, the last most important part is the resonance, as it is one of the core nodes of our build. It will convert the frenzy charges gained from the combat frenzy into the power charges, which will allow us to cast our insane charged staff. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to get the adaptive capability, then second get the enhanced effectiveness. Because of how many attributes we will stack, this node will grant us a massive amount of life early on. With about 500 strength, this node will result in more than 1000 extra life. Then for the third one we want to get the integrated efficiency. And then finally for the last one we get the gem studded, which is another powerful node. If we don't get this one, then our build will run out of the effective support gems. So we want to get it to not only increase our DPS, but also to create the bigger explosions by using the Herald of the Ice. So feel free to use the exact same path as we have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next up we have our Atlas passives. So when we start we want to first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, until we get this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we want to circle back to the middle, and this time go up top, until we get to the second keystone called the Corrupted Infusion, and then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have the Delirium, then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Pillar of the Caged God. This is relatively cheap and common item, however in the early game we wanna use the Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune to increase its flat damage output even more. On top of this, if you get lucky enough, then you can also find this quarterstaff with 3 sockets. Then for the helmet we have the 3 dragons. And after you get the Hands of the Wisdom in action, then this is the third priority that you should get, as it is mandatory to ensure that you are freezing enemies for a massive Herald of the Ice explosion. Then for the chest we have the Warrior Invictus. This is another powerful item, but this time not mandatory whatsoever, so use this one or anything similar. And for stats we wanna focus on increased evasion, more to strength, dexterity and intelligence, and more resistances like fire, cold, lightning and chaos. Then for the belt we have the double belt with increased charm charges. And for bonus stats we want max life, more to strength and chaos and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Hand of the Wisdom in action. This should be the second item that you prioritize after our weapon, as it is another core part of our build, and will enable us to stack our attributes and increase DPS by a massive amount. Then for the boots we're using the advanced hunting shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max life, more to dexterity and fire and cold resistance. Then for first and second ring we got the same one called the prismatic ring, with more to all elemental resistances. And for more we want adds fire or cold damage to attacks, and more strength, dexterity and intelligence. And then finally for the amulet we have Amber Amulet with strength. And for more we want more to all attributes, more to strength and intelligence. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best setup in the endgame, and if you only can afford few things, then I would recommend to prioritize the weapon, then the gloves, and finally the headpiece. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So for maps and AoV farming, we simply want to spam our Tempest Flurry while making sure to maintain the charge staff for as long as possible. However, then for single targets and boss fights, we want to start by attacking with the Tempest Flurry to generate combo stacks. So then we use our Tempest Belt and then continue attacking with the Tempest Flurry. This combo will freeze the bell and generate a power charge. So then afterwards we use our power charge by casting the charge staff. So then, once the charge staff is active, we want to continue attacking the target with the Tempest Fury, and replace the Tempest Bell whenever it goes down.